All right, so we've referred now a couple times to this other violent incident that occurred yesterday, which thankfully resulted in a much lower loss of life than that vehicle attack down in New Orleans. But yesterday, a Cybertruck pulled up outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, and then reportedly, after sitting there for 15 or 20 seconds, explodes. Now, we have some video I can show you. So ultimately, the driver himself, who perpetrated what is being described as an intentional act, he's the only person who died in this attack. There were something like 7 people who were standing nearby who were also injured. But thankfully, again, lower loss of life here. But in any case, let's take a look at this stunning video of what occurred here.
Copy.
So you can actually see these like fireworks exploding. And sure enough, after the fact, when they got a look at the truck itself, you can see here them, carrying this tarp and revealing the contents of this truck. You can see these firework canisters, gasoline canisters, camp fuel canisters, and they say large firework mortars in the back of the Cybertruck that exploded. So Elon Musk got involved immediately and helped out law enforcement trying to, first unlock the car, which had automatically locked, and then investigating to see, was this some weird like Tesla problem where the vehicle just exploded out of nowhere? And no, he says we have now confirmed that the explosion was caused by very large fireworks and or a bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck and is unrelated to the vehicle itself. All vehicle telemetry was positive at the time of the explosion. And as I just mentioned, Emily, you also had law enforcement confirming that this was being investigated as an intentional act. And, obviously you could see the symbolism here. You've got the Cybertruck, which is Elon Musk, who's obviously closely affiliated with the Trump administration. You got the Trump Hotel, et cetera. So let's take a listen to a little bit of the reporting here.
Let's talk about Las Vegas, because this has been a sort of interesting development. The images of the Cybertruck parked outside the Las Vegas Trump property went viral. I think people thought it was an accident and then no one was hurt. And so there was a sort of bizarre symbolism in that it was a Cybertruck, it was not Trump. As it's developed, it seems that this is being taken far more seriously. What have we learned about what authorities know and how they're investigating this?
Right, Chris. So according to the reporting of myself, my colleagues, Andrew Blankstein and Kelly O'Donnell, right now, 3 senior U.S. law enforcement officials say that this explosion of a Tesla Cybertruck, kind of in the portico there where you saw that smoke rising from in front of Trump's property in Las Vegas, is being investigated, at least initially, as a potential act of terrorism, and that it was, quote, intentional.
So there you go. Another potential act of terrorism appears very much to be intentional when you're driving around with, a bunch of fireworks and gas canisters and other explosives. Would seem very much to indicate that this individual intended for this to happen. And I'll just give you the last couple pieces that we know here. As we mentioned before, there are some surface level connection. I don't want to say connections, but similarities is the better word between this vehicle-based attack and the other vehicle-based attack in New Orleans. The most noteworthy of this was the fact that they both vehicles were electric and both were rented through the rental car app Turo, where people can put up their own vehicles to rent out to the public. I don't know, perhaps that's just like they both thought that this would be a way for the vehicles not to be tracked, or the easiest way to get the particular type of vehicle that they were looking to get. I don't know how easy it is to rent a Cybertruck from a traditional rental agency. But in addition to them both using vehicles, both using this rental car app, they also both were former military. So this is who authorities said perpetrated this attack and, ended up killing himself in this attack. Matthew Livelsberger, 37, identified as the driver of the Cybertruck that exploded in Vegas, listed on LinkedIn as an operations director and intelligence manager, who apparently is former Green Beret. So at this point, that's about all we know about this particular attack in Las Vegas, which killed the driver and injured a number of passersby.
And both obviously used trucks as well. So those are, I think, more, I mean, they're superficial to your point, Krystal, because they're, all on the surface level, but they're, pretty, I think, interesting parallels. And it took a long time for people to talk about what was happening in the same breath yesterday. We didn't hear it from media and law enforcement, but it would seem to have been a fairly obvious question. Trump obviously was at Mar-a-Lago. He was not at Las Vegas, so there's no threat to Trump himself. But I mean, we may learn that they have absolutely nothing to do with each other, but the questions, I think, on the minds of a lot of the American people who now see two different things happening on two different coasts, almost at the same time or within hours of each other. I mean, I shouldn't say almost at the same time, but really within the 24-hour span. Really was within, I think, a 12-hour span, roughly. That raises questions, and the answers so far have been, again, entirely unsatisfying.
So apparently, law enforcement is investigating to see if there's any potential link between these two attacks. So far, they have not indicated that there are any other than these, surface level similarities. But yeah, it's to your point when we were talking about the New Orleans attack, like there was a very scary period of time yesterday when law enforcement comes out and says, oh, well, this wasn't just this lone wolf in New Orleans. We have video of these other accomplices who are still at large. And then that's at the same time that you're just starting to get these details that, oh, the Cybertruck didn't just randomly blow up. Right. This was another intentional act potentially being investigated as terrorism. It certainly raised, is there going to be a series of more attacks in the country? So far, as I said, there's no indication the two were linked. It looks like two separate lone wolf psychos who decided for whatever reason or whatever irrational reason their brains concocted to try to hurt and kill innocent people who were just going about living their lives. But, that's still being investigated at this point to see if there's any potential connection here. But as best we can tell, I think we have certainly more details about the attacker in New Orleans, and, looks like someone who was going about his life doing okay and then hit a rough patch. He was also under financial distress, had this difficult divorce, and appears to have just completely lost his mind and was thinking about killing his own family, and then decides instead to kill a bunch of innocent random civilians on New Year's Day, in the early mornings of New Year's Day. So welcome to 2025. Not going so well so far.
Yeah, well, on that point, it was insane in the 24 hours of New Year's where you had symbolically a literal lightning strike hit the Capitol, hit the Washington Monument, and all of this happens, starts unfolding within 12 hours of the new year. Not a great start, Krystal, but just a last
even
point.
omen, not good.
Yes. Seriously. And just a last point on that. Former military, I think, cannot gloss over how important that is. And the time span is enough that it potentially allows for this man to have been, the suspect in Las Vegas, to have been animated in some way. We're likely dealing with somebody who had some level of mental illness, but could have potentially been animated in one way or another by what happened in New Orleans. There's enough time that whatever the motivation was, maybe it's something is a reaction in one way or another to what had happened in New Orleans, in the Las Vegas case as well. So a lot more questions to be asked, and hopefully we'll get those answers sooner rather than later.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.